Talk the Walk on AM 980 KKMS. More Spirited Talk Radio. Got a question for you. What do you think it would take to silence the mouth of Bill O'Reilly? I'm thinking a lot. A lot. Joining me on the telephone right now is a woman who silenced Bill O'Reilly a few years ago. Jill Stanek is her name. Perhaps you've heard of her. You've perhaps heard of her on Focus on the Family, sharing her amazing story. She's from Chicago, Illinois. She worked in a Lutheran hospital, and she experienced some things that she shared on Bill O'Reilly's program that silenced his mouth. And no, it wasn't the law of God, which silences the mouth of the sinner and brings him guilty before God. No, it was her story. And we would like to join her right now and have her share her story with you. I'm telling you, your jaw's going to be on the floor when you hear this. Jill Stanek, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Todd. How are you?
Good. I'm grateful that you spent some time with us today. We saw your speech when you were in town for the Robbinsdale Women's Center.
Yes.
Nauseating, exceptional, fascinating, disgusting, all of those things in one 30-minute presentation. Nice job.
Yes, it is quite awful. What I have to talk about, it sure is.
All right, now you started out. Tell everybody why you wanted to become a nurse.
Wanted to become a nurse so that I could help people. I witnessed an accident when I was a young mom, and a little baby died in that accident, and I was helpless standing by watching her die and never wanted to be in that situation again. And so that became the impetus for my becoming a nurse, going to nursing school when my youngest was in first grade, and going on, as you said, to a hospital that was affiliated with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America and United Church of Christ, named Christ Hospital on the southwest side of Chicago, and that's where this all happened.
Okay, so you think you're a Christian.
Yes.
I'm going to go to the Christ Hospital.
Yes, and be safe from such moral and ethical dilemmas like abortion.
But you discovered in short order.
Wrong.
What were they doing?
I found out in my capacity as a labor and delivery nurse that the hospital was involved not only in second trimester abortions and sometimes early third, but the method of abortion that the hospital used sometimes resulted in babies being aborted alive. And if they were aborted alive, they were allowed to die without any medical intervention whatsoever.
All right. Okay, what was the method that allowed this to happen?
It's called the induced labor abortion method. It's also known as mid-trimester labor induction, early induction of labor, which sounds very clean, but it's abortion, and also we now know it as live birth abortion.
Uh-huh. So the baby, while intended to be aborted and hopefully dead, comes out actually alive. And it might be how many weeks or months old when this happens?
My experience in the hospital was that they aborted between 19 and 23 weeks usually, but they aborted as late as 28 weeks. And they never tried to kill the baby in utero in the hospital. In abortion clinics, they will, as I'm told by at least one abortion clinic nurse. But the goal of this abortion procedure is that the baby will die during the birth process or soon afterward. My experience was about 1/4 of these babies lived after they were aborted, and they lived anywhere from a couple of minutes to almost as long as an 8-hour shift.
Okay, so they know doing these abortions that there is a potential that the child could be born alive. Right?
Yes, the physician inserts a medication, and I can say this cleanly. Don't put your finger on.
Right.
Don't worry, I'm going
trust
to
you.
go
Right.
over the top for your listeners because I can explain it that the physician inserts a medication that will make the mother's cervix dilate. Normally, what happens is a mom has been found to be carrying a handicapped baby. And this happens during ultrasound, which is second trimester, and then they'll follow it up with amniocentesis. And when a mom is found to be carrying a handicapped baby, they will offer her this option. And it's not just something that is going on in Illinois. It's going on all over the country. It's much more prevalent than we even know now, and I know that it's going on a lot of places. But they will offer this option to the mom. They think that they're being compassionate by cutting short a pregnancy that the baby is very often going to die. Although a lot of times these babies have Down syndrome or spina bifida, non-lethal diseases, but a lot of times they have lethal diseases. All that said, sometimes they will abort for health of the mother, which pro-life
means anything.
Right. And, of course, in abortion clinics, they have no criteria whatsoever. They'll abort for anything. But this medication given in the second trimester opens the cervix. It forces it to open prematurely. Sometimes they'll use seaweed sticks called laminaria to do the same thing. And when the cervix opens, this second trimester baby just falls out of the uterus, and that's how it comes to be that sometimes they're aborted alive. As I said, in the abortion clinic, they'll kill the baby in utero by using ultrasound to insert a needle into the baby's heart and inject a medication that will cause the baby to go into instant cardiac arrest or kill the baby in another way, and then they'll deliver the dead baby. But they don't do that in the hospital. They just go ahead and just induce labor and take what they get.
And the first time that you discovered this was when?
Well, I found out it was going on when I heard in report one night that we were aborting a second trimester baby with Down syndrome. That was the first I knew about it, and I'd been working in the department for a year. But then, one night, not too long after that, a nursing coworker was taking one of these live aborted babies who also had Down syndrome to our soiled utility room to die, which is where they took them if they lived when parents didn't want to hold them and they didn't have time to hold them. And when she told me what she was doing, I couldn't bear the thought of this suffering child dying alone, and so I cradled and rocked him for the 45 minutes that he lived. And needless to say, that was a life-changing event. And you mentioned O'Reilly, and it was describing that event to him that caused him to go speechless. He just didn't know what to say. It is something that will it's so macabre. You can't believe it's going on. You don't have anything to say.
Okay, hold on a second. A baby is born alive.
Yes.
And probably as big as your hand.
Yes.
And is alive for 45 minutes.
Yes.
And the doctors are aware of this, the nurses are aware of this, and they make no effort to rescue, resuscitate, sustain life. I'm sorry, I'm not all that familiar with the Hippocratic Oath, but it seems to me that this is criminal.
Well, you would think so, but it was determined in the state of Illinois, at least, not to be breaking any law. They do try to abort these babies before they're viable. But the problem is that they don't know. You don't know what you have. That's what you say in labor and delivery. You may think you know what's going on with every baby, but you don't know what you have until the baby's born. And we've all heard stories of babies who were supposed to be ill that weren't, or babies that were supposed to be a certain age or weight and they were older or younger than they were supposed to be. And these babies were not wanted. They were aborted most often because it was thought that they were very sick, but they were not assessed after they were aborted. They were just automatically relegated to the soiled utility room for lots of reasons. The doctor definitely would want to destroy the evidence when he'd recommended to kill a baby. You wouldn't want to find out that your recommendation was wrong. So there were a lot of reasons why they wouldn't want to assess these babies, but there has now been a law passed.
Which gets stymied by 3 judges. So to the soiled utility room? I'm sorry, in my mind, I'm seeing you walking into I can smell the room because you can smell the cleaning solution in there. I'm seeing a sink and some buckets and the mop for the floor and a washer and a dryer and a chair and some shelves with laundry detergent.
Right, and it is even worse. I held the baby that I heard about. I received that baby after the baby was too far gone to try and resuscitate, but a nurse coworker of mine testified with me in Washington. We testified before a House committee about this, and she said that she came into the soiled utility room on 2 separate occasions, once to find a live aborted baby laying naked next to the sink, once to find a live aborted baby laying naked on the scale, and she said that she herself once inherited a patient at change of shift who had just aborted a baby alive and didn't want anything to do with him. And she said that while she was going back and forth caring for her two patients from the soiled utility room to her